Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnav. Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Yuta Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Sahagana Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayodi Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Lord Varahadeva ki Jai. So here's a nice verse that we can all chant. I'll see if there's a way to get it on the screen. Today is the appearance day of Lord Varahadeva, and he saved the whole world. So now we can glorify him. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a world. You just saw it in the picture. Okay, here's a nice verse. Vidunvata Vedamayam Nijam Vapur Janas Tapaha Satya Nivasino Vayam Sata Shikoduta Shivambu Bindubir Vimrijamana Brisham Isha Pavitaha Vidunvata Vedamayam Nijam Vapur Janastapa Satya Nivasino Vayam Satashiko Duta Shivambu Bindubir Vimrijamana Brisham Isha Pavitaha. O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly we are inhabitants of the most pious planets, the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas, but still we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkling from your shoulder hairs by the shaking of your body. That's Lord Varahadeva. So you can imagine, he's big, he's red, he has these pointy red transcendental hairs, and the water from the causal ocean is on them, and he's coming out of the water and shaking, and his shoulders, the water's coming off of them, and it's purifying the residents of the most pious planets, Janas, Tapas, and Satyalokas. Just one more time. Still, we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs by the shaking of your body. Purport. Ordinarily, the body of a hog is considered impure, but one should not consider that the hog incarnation assumed by the Lord is also impure. That form of the Lord is the personified Vedas and is transcendental. The inhabitants of the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas are the most pious persons in the material world, but because those planets are situated in the material world, there are so many material impurities there also. Therefore, when the drops of water from the tips of the Lord's shoulder hairs were sprinkled upon the bodies of the inhabitants of the higher planets, they felt purified. The Ganges water is pure because of its emanating from the toe of the Lord, and there is no difference between the water emanating from the toe and that from the tips of the hair on the shoulder of Lord Bor. They are both absolute and transcendental. So, we can read some from this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Lord Varahadeva appears, because today is his appearance day, and he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's saving the entire planet, which was in great distress. Seeing if this can stay on the picture. Oh, okay. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter Canto 3, chapter 13. Okay. Sorry, the technology is a little difficult. Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated by a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are this? What can we do who are engaged in this matter of creation? It is best to let the Almighty Lord direct us. Text 18. O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb. O descendant of Bharata, while Brahma was observing him, the boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation, as gigantic as a great elephant. Struck with wonder at observing the wonderful boar-like form in the sky, Brahma, with great brahmanas like Marichi, as well as the Kumaras and Manu, began to argue in various ways. Is this some extraordinary entity come in the pretense of a boar? It is very wonderful that he has come from my nose. First of all, this boar was seen no bigger than the tip of a thumb, and within a moment he was as large as a stone. My mind is perturbed. Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu? While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, roared tumultuously like a great mountain. The omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead enlivened Brahma and the other highly elevated Brahmanas by again roaring with his uncommon voice, which echoed in all directions. When the great sages and thinkers, who are residents of Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Boar, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chants from the three Vedas. Playing like an elephant, he entered into the water after roaring again in reply to the Vedic prayers by the great devotees. The Lord is the object of the Vedic prayers, and thus he understood that the devotees' prayers were meant for him. Before entering the water to rescue the earth, Lord Boar flew in the sky, slashing his tail, his hard hairs quivering, his very glance was luminous, and he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hooves and his glittering white tusks. He was personally the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and was therefore transcendental. Yet because he had the body of a hog, he searched after the earth by smell. His tusks were fearful, and he glanced over the devotee brahmanas engaged in offering prayers. Thus he entered the water. This one's probably an interesting purport, so we can check it out. We should always remember that although the body of a hog is material, the hog form of the Lord was not materially contaminated. It is not possible for an earthly hog to assume a gigantic form spreading throughout the sky, beginning from the Satyaloka. His body is always transcendental in all circumstances. Therefore, the assumption of the form of a boar is only his pastime. His body is all Vedas, or transcendental. But since he had assumed the form of a boar, he began to search out the earth by smelling, just like a hog. The Lord can perfectly play the part of any living entity. The gigantic feature of the boar was certainly very fearful for all non-devotees, but to the pure devotees of the Lord, he was not at all fearful. On the contrary, he was so pleasingly glancing upon his devotees that all of them felt transcendental happiness. We'll continue. There we go. Diving into the water like a giant mountain, Lord Bor divided the middle of the ocean, and two high waves appeared as the arms of the ocean, which cried loudly as if praying to the Lord, "O Lord of all sacrifices, please do not cut me in two. Kindly give me protection." Lord Bor penetrated the water with his hooves, which were like sharp arrows, and found the limits of the ocean, although it was unlimited. He saw the earth, the resting place for all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of creation, and he personally lifted it. Lord Bor very easily took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the water. Thus he appeared very splendid. Then, his anger glowing like the Sudarshan wheel, he immediately killed the demon Hiranyaksha, although he tried to fight with the Lord. Thereupon Lord Bor killed the demon within the water, just as a lion kills an elephant. The cheeks and tongue of the Lord became smeared with the blood of the demon, just as an elephant becomes reddish from digging in the purple earth. Then the Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion like that of a tamal tree, and thus the sages headed by Brahma could understand him to be the supreme personality of Godhead, and offered respectful obeisances unto him. All the sages uttered with great respect, "O unconquerable enjoyer of all sacrifices, all glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar." So these are all the sages praising Lord Varahadeva. Do you guys want to praise Lord Varahadeva with the sages? Okay, we can say it in unison. Here's text 35. "O Lord, your form is worshipable by performances of sacrifices, but souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri, and others are in the touch of your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusha grass, in your eyes is the clarified butter, and in your forelegs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. O Lord, your tongue is a plate of sacrifice, your nostril is another plate of sacrifice, and your belly is the eating plate of sacrifice, and another plate of sacrifice is the holes of your ears, and your mouth is the Brahma plate of sacrifice. Your throat is the plate of sacrifice known as Soma, and whatever you chew is known as Agni Hotra. Moreover, O Lord, the repetition of your appearance is the desire for all kinds of initiation. Your neck is the place for 3 desires, and your tusks are the result of initiation and the end of all desires. Your tongue is the prior activities of initiation. Your head is the fire without sacrifice, as well as the fire of worship, and your living forces are the aggregate of all desires. O Lord, your semen is the sacrifice called Soma Yagya. Your growth is the ritualistic performances of the morning. Your skin and touch sensations are the 7 elements of the Agni Stoma sacrifice. Your bodily joints are symbols and various other sacrifices performed in 12 days. Therefore, you are the object of all sacrifices, called Soma and Asoma, and you are bound by yagyas only. O Lord, you are the supreme personality of Godhead, and are worshipable by universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer our obeisances unto you. You can be realized by the pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible material contamination. We offer our respectful obeisances to you as the supreme spiritual master of knowledge in devotional service. O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your tusks, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant, just as coming out of the water. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. O Lord, for the residential purposes of all inhabitants, both moving and non-moving, this earth is your wife, and you are the supreme Father. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you, along with Mother Earth, in whom you have invested your own potency, just as an expert sacrificer puts fire in the Arani wood. Who else but you, the supreme personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? It is not very wonderful for you, however, because you acted almost wonderfully in the creation of the universe. By your energy, you have created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly we are inhabitants of the most pious planets, the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas, but still we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs by the shaking of your body. So, Lord Bor has appeared today, and he's come out of the water of the causal ocean, and that water is sprinkling from the hairs of his transcendental body. And one might ask, wasn't there an ecstatic fight that took place between Lord Bor and Hiranyaksha, who is a greatly powerful demon? And the answer to that question is yes. So we can hear that battle now and witness Lord Bor fighting with Hiranyaksha. So get this set up. I haven't heard this all before, but this was just sent, and now we will, I'll start it from the battle. Okay, here we go.
Suddenly, as the boar was coming out of the water, he was attacked by a powerful demon, Hiranyaka, who had been traveling throughout all the three worlds and planetary systems, conquering whomever he met out of bellicose madness. As the reservoir of all desires, the Lord also has a fighting spirit, from which comes all fighting spirit, as found in the material world. For instance, the natural fighting spirit sometimes displayed by young boys wrestling is but a perverted reflection of this original desire of the Lord. The fighting of the Supreme Lord, however, doesn't result in the destruction of the enemy, but works for his liberation. When the Supreme Lord fights, he does not fight with an ordinary mortal or non-devotee. Hiranyaka was actually a great devotee of the Lord, who was personally chosen by the Lord to assume this demoniac form to engage in a sporting relationship with the Supreme Lord. Hiranyaka was broad and strong, golden-haired and covered with many ornaments. He is described as being so tall and big that he blocked out the view of the sky. And his prowess was not like that of an ordinary man, because in fighting he appeared to be almost on an equal level with the Lord. But his mentality was all demoniac. He traveled for the purpose of fighting with all peace-loving creatures. Wherever he could find anyone with a fighting reputation, he would challenge him to a fight. And thus, he made the demigod Indra flee before him, and he challenged Varuna, the god of the water. Varuna advised Hiranyaka that if he were really so desirous of battle, he ought to fight with Lord Vishnu. And he told the demon that at the present moment, the Lord had taken the form of a boar, and he told him where he could go to meet him. The demon came upon the all-powerful personality of Godhead in his incarnation as a boar, as the Lord was bearing the earth upwards on the end of his tusk. The Bhagavatam says that the reddish eyes and hoofs of Varaha robbed the demon of his splendor. The demon was so puffed up, he began to address the Lord with great arrogance.
Your power is now limited. Today I shall enliven my kinsmen by killing you, fool.
This is the demoniac mentality. Actually, the demoniac cannot understand at all how God is working. They can neither kill him nor touch him. He can be present everywhere and still remain at his eternal abode. The demon continued hurling insults, But the Lord Varaha patiently bore them while he carried the earth to safety on his tusks.
When you are smashed by my mace, then the sages and devotees who offer you devotional service will cease to exist.
The Lord Varaha was pained by the abusive words of the demon, but he carefully placed the earth on the water of the universe and enabled it to float by its own power. Then he turned to the business of fighting with the demon who was delivering the furious insults. Lord Brahma, accompanied by his followers and other demigods, came to see the terrible fight for the sake of the world. As learned devotees, the demigods never consider the Lord to have the body of an ordinary boar. He can assume any form, and he has all forms eternally. All forms actually emanate from the original form of Krishna, as is declared in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, this boar form is always Vishnu, transcendental. Lord Brahma addressed him thus.
This demon has proved to be a constant pinprick to the demigods, Brahmins, cows, and innocent persons. He has attained a boon from me and has turned to be a demon, and is always wandering over the earth looking for a fight. My dear Lord, there is no need of playing with this serpentine demon who is very skilled at cunning tricks and arrogant and most wicked. Please kindly kill him.
The Lord then addressed Hiranyaka in challenging words.
We are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death does not fear the insults of the kind in which you are indulging, because you are bound by the laws of death. Now give up your nonsensical talk. You are supposed to be the commander of many soldiers, so now you'd better make prompt steps to overthrow me.
Hiranyaka became so angry and agitated at these words that he began to tremble like a challenged cobra, for the Lord had asked him to fulfill his loud promises to kill him. Hiranyaka then sprang upon Varaha and dealt him a blow with his powerful fist. The Lord dodged that blow by moving aside. The personality of Godhead then exhibited his anger and rushed to meet the demon who was hissing and shaking his rage and holding his fist to deliver a wicked attack. The Lord, in the form of a boar, wielding all the weapons of Vishnu, then struck at Hiranyaka. The expert demon protected himself with a maneuver of his mace. In this way, they began to strike at each other with their huge maces, each seeking his own victory. Hiranyaka, however, respecting the law of combat, did not strike at an unarmed foe. The Lord, angered by the loss of his mace, invoked his Sudarshan discus, which is the personal ultimate weapon used by the personality of Godhead. As the discus revolved in his hand, the demon sprang into the air and threw his mace. The Lord knocked it down with his left foot. The demon picked up his mace and aimed it again. The Lord stood firm and caught the flying mace and offered it back to the demon to try again. This humiliated the demon, and he took a trident and hurled it furiously. The Lord, however, tore it to pieces with the sharpened rim of his Sudarshan disc. Hiranyaka then struck the Lord on the chest with his hard fists. Bhagavatam says that this was felt by the Lord as an elephant feels the striking of a wreath of flowers. In other words, the Lord desired the fighting just so that he could enjoy transcendental bliss. The demon then began to conjure tricks on a full scale, as was in his power. The skies were filled with winds and stones were discharged from caves. Pus, hair, and blood rained from the skies. At this, Lord Varaha at last discharged his Sudarshan disc. At the moment the weapon left his hand, a shudder ran through the heart of Ditu, the mother of Hiranyaka, and her breast ran with blood. When the demon saw that his whole magic show was dispersed by the presence of the personality of Godhead, he tried to embrace him with his arms in order to crush him. But to his amazement, he found that the Lord had again eluded him. Finally, the Lord slapped him at the base of the ear, and although struck indifferently, Hiranyaka's eyeballs bulged from their sockets, his body wheeled, and he fell like a gigantic tree uprooted. His arms, limbs, and head lay broken and scattered. It is described that when the demigods approached the battle area, they saw the so-called corpse of the demon Hiranyaka was still rosy-hued, as if full of life. Then it was noticed that the demon's body was still touching Lord Varaha's body, and therefore the soul of souls was giving him life. Lord Brahma was struck with wonder at the great body of Hiranyaka.
Oh, what a blessed death.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who grants liberation in any incarnation, is so inconceivably great that even his kick brings the greatest benefit to the victim. Because he is inconceivably great, we are warned against thinking that we understand what it is to be a devotee of the Lord, or even how it feels to be a friend of Krishna, or to act as his parent when he is partaking of his childhood pastimes. And certainly, no one should pretend to grasp an understanding of what it is to exchange loving affairs with the Lord. Most persons actually have no concept of God, or at most, they have heard that God is great. Yet, the mystery of the pastimes of the chief of all persons is open to everyone who will hear his pastimes as presented in the Srimad Bhagavatam and related intact by his pure representatives. The best way to come to the understanding of this mystery is merely to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Lord Rahadev ki jai. So, are there any ecstatic sharing of things about Rahadev or questions in regards to what we have heard? Praises of Lord Vor. Questions, comments? Yes. I want to find it though. It's the whole, they do it for the
Hare
whole
Krishna.
Bhagavatam.
I have a question. So, were there inhabitants on the earth at this time?
Does anyone know? I don't remember ever reading that detail about inhabitants on the earth when that happened. I don't know. Maybe you could maybe find a little database, something on it. Any other questions or comments while we research it? Yes, Prabhu.
Haribol. What are some lessons we can learn from this past?
I really like what we just heard at the end there from the Bhagavatam, that because the Lord is so inconceivable himself, as we can see from this past, I mean, it's quite inconceivable. He assumed the form of a boar. He's, lifting the earth on his tusk, because a boar can lift things, so he assumes like the perfect form for each thing. So he's lifting the earth on his tusk. He gets in this whole fight with Hiranyaksha, and then since he's always in control, just like how if a child tries to do a mock fight with their father or something, he can easily end it just by even saying something or just putting his hand out. So when he defeats the great demon that no one could even touch, he just smacks him. And so the Lord is so inconceivable, as we can see by this pastime, so one should never assume that they know, what did it say? One should never assume that they know what it means to be a devotee of the Lord, or to understand the conjugal rasa of the Lord and his topmost devotees. So that's a really helpful reminder. And I thought that was really an interesting lesson to be learned from this. So he's so inconceivable. Like Valmiki said the other day in a class on Bhagavad Gita, he was explaining we should never assume, oh, I am a devotee. And then because he explained that then Maya will say, well, let's see how much of a devotee you are. And she's got the trident and everything. So, yeah, the Lord is inconceivable, but we can begin to understand him, like we just heard from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and associating with his devotees, and we can hear from them about the Lord and how to serve him. And by engaging in that service, then he reveals himself. Tesham satata yuktanam hajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Is that okay? Yes, Magadari Prabhu?
On this point that you just mentioned, one time we were hearing that, I think Lord Brahma, he prays like that I don't know about other people, but I don't know anything about Krishna, like that. I forgot which prayers he's speaking in, but he's the Sampradaya Acharya, and that's his mood. It's actually, I don't know. I wanted to mention that there's like some mundane film that I had seen with it had like a really powerful boar with like a deep voice, and I don't know, I really liked it when I saw that. And when I came to the temple, then we had some cassettes that somehow, I think maybe Mridanga Prabhu brought them to the temple. And we had a little player, and we had a task to clean the prasadam hall, which was a lot larger at that time. And I got to sweep and mop it and stuff. And I put this cassette in, and it was this battle, and it was just, I was just blasting it, and then just sweeping while they were battling, and it was the Amala Bhakta Swami narration of that, and it was really amazing to hear about Lord Varahadeva then, and that, of course, that this Leela overshadows anything I had seen before, but it was nice that I experienced like a trading of attachments. Like, I really liked that mundane image and story, and then when I heard this battle scene, that was just better.
Yes, everyone's looking for Krishna, so when they get the real thing, then they become really actually satisfied. Maharaj made this point in one of his classes before, how people want to hear all the stories about, there's like Godzilla and this and that, different movies about some big animal type of form doing some big battle or destruction or something. But that's all there in the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. These are where it's coming from. So then we hear and we become... Srimad Bhagavatam fulfills all desires. So we hear it and become truly satisfied. Did Rochandev had a comment? Maybe when he comes back around. Yeah, Jai.
Yeah, Lord Varaha is mentioned in the list of Vishnu incarnations in the Narayana Kavacha Shield in Srimad Bhagavatam. That Lord Varaha protects us from rogues in the street.
From rogues in the street? Lord Varahadeva ki jai. Was there any last? Oh, I was just wanted to, yeah, a short one.
Hare Krishna. I couldn't find if there was individual people on the earth, but Hiranyaksha mined the earth of the gold and its valuable treasures, so it became imbalanced, and then it fell into the ocean. So then Varaha came to save Earth herself, and that was what I found in short.
Joy. So, let us go on hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting the glories of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Varahadeva ki jai.